Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Sudha Jamthe, and this is Sudha Live. Thank you so much for joining me on a Friday evening if you're here in my time zone in Silicon Valley or nearby. And especially for those of you who are just waking up into your weekends in Asia, I appreciate you joining me. So, this is our half an hour or 45 minutes. I end up making it 45 minutes. Let's see if we can go shorter this time and I can let you go into your weekend sooner. But I have so much to share with you. And so this is my happy time with you at the end of the week, catching up on AI and generative AI is all the buzz. And what is happening? Where are the opportunities? Let me dive in right away. I'm going to share my screen. Just to share with you. Okay, that's my live stream talking back to me, so I'm going to mute that out. So I'm streaming on LinkedIn and YouTube, and I'm watching here on LinkedIn. So if you have any questions or anything related to the topics that I'm talking, if you want to share your experience or a comment, I would appreciate that. And I'll try and answer your questions now. If I miss anything, I will come back for it. And somebody was asking, where do I see this Sudha Live if I miss the live now? One is, of course, if you get a notification on LinkedIn, it's going to stay on forever. Or there is a bit.ly / Sudha Live playlist. One word, bit.ly / Sudha Live playlist. That's my YouTube. It goes where this all gets archived. So just go to my YouTube. Or I also have a Jamthe newsletter. Let me show that. I haven't shared my screen. Yes, thank you for that. Jamthe newsletter. So thanks to my intern Paryasurin, this goes out on, here we are, bit.ly / Jamthe newsletter. This goes out on Sunday mornings to my students and then one group of other people if you are interested in subscribing to this, and you will see all the links, the jobs, the events, everything that I'm going to be sharing. Okay, I have a very interesting AI that I came across. So this week we've been talking about, we are excited about generative AI, but is this real? Is it always helpful? All the use cases we are seeing, especially I'm based here in Silicon Valley, so I'm always like watching for the hype curve. And I've written this book, Generative AI, a primer for product and business managers. So I am always thinking about my students who are professional adults. How are they going to use this? And my specialty is to explain everything using no code. So whether you code or you don't code, I don't care really, because I am interested in what are you going to do with it? How are you going to change the world with what I'm going to teach you? So I've been thinking about what is happening with generative AI from around the world, and that's going to be the theme for today. So I've been saying I'm going to share the screen, not sharing. So let me get to that. Okay. Who do you think is this person? Her name is Lisa. Okay, let me show.
Greetings to everyone. Namaste. I am OTV's and Odisha's first air news anchor Lisa. As you all know, OTV is the first private satellite channel of Odisha which came into existence nearly 2.5 decades ago. In these 25 years of its broadcasting journey, OTV has reached many milestones, earning the reputation of being Oriya people's go-to news channel. Now, giving birth to me and by instating me into the TV and digital world, OTV has marked the beginning of a historic moment not only in Odisha, but for all the regional television broadcast mediums across the country.
Okay, first disclaimer, I have nothing to do with OTV, and Odisha is a state in India, and in fact, I'm agnostic to all kinds of brands and I'm not owned by anybody. So I don't endorse anybody. So if I'm talking good about somebody, it just means that you're doing something that's ethical and exciting technically for me to, to come and share this. So this is a news anchor AI that was launched in OTV, which is State of Odisha's TV channel. And it speaks a language. I'm going to say it. She speaks a language, Odia, called Odia, and English. And there's a lot of marketing on that. I apologize for that. I was looking for a shorter version of this, but they deserve to talk about themselves. At least their anchor should be talking about themselves, so that's okay, I guess. But what are we doing with generative AI? What is happening with generative AI from everywhere around the world? So that is what we set out to find out this week. And Pariya Serin did a fantastic work showing us the state of AI. So let me switch to that. Here we go. So Pariya put together at Weekly Wednesday a presentation about what's happening with generative AI in different parts of the world, and this was one of the examples she shared. I thought it was worth sharing just separately as a standalone thing also. Here we go. Let's hear from Parya.
Okay, so looking at this chart, we can see that AI capacity is high in certain countries like US, China, Singapore, and UK. US is all the way to the right, the blue bubble over there, in this all the way to the right in the scale. And so we can see that it has the highest scale, which is the nation's output globally. And this also shows us that the US and China are scoring far ahead of other countries. So the countries that are on the most right. And then in terms of AI intensity.
Okay, I'm going to pause here. And for those of you who are here live with me, intensity is just a coined word by one of the research companies, which is to say, what is the capacity or the availability of people who are skilled in AI compared to the population of the AI. So if it's a small country and a lot of people are doing AI, then it has a higher intensity. India ranks as number 2 in terms of the number of people who are skilled in AI, next behind US. But given the size of the country, size of the population, that doesn't come high in the intensity. So I'm giving you a clue here. So based on that, what do you think is the top country, number 1 country in the world, which has high intensity in AI, meaning number of people, a huge percentage of their population are skilled in AI? Who do you think is that? Which country is that? Number 1. I'm going to go get out of this share and see what you're telling me on LinkedIn. So who's the number 1 country which has maximum capacity of people who are skilled in AI? So number 1 is Singapore, and number 2 is Israel, and number 3 is Switzerland. So it's fascinating, isn't it? And when we're thinking about AI from around the globe, it's interesting to see the spread really around the globe, at least northern and southern hemisphere, right? I see a lot of activity that is happening in Africa, especially with generative AI and language models. So I'm surprised not to see Africa in there, but they're going by number of available talent to the size of the population. So I want to go back to Pariya's presentation. Let me continue the share here. Here we go.
Which is the AI capacity relative to the size of Africa, or the yellow. They're falling short. So they're at the bottom in the scale and intensity. So what we see is not enough AI output and innovation relative to the size of the countries. Okay, next slide.
So that is the one I was trying to call out, because this research that companies do, typically they end up collecting a set of companies that they have access into. So I believe that research that Pariya was quoting looked at 63 countries. So when I go to a Slack group like Masakane, it's buzzing with energy. And then if I look at something like Lanfrica, and you guys should check out Lanfrica, I'm going to share an event and show you the site in a minute. They've looked at the data sets that are training AI in the world, and it does not have enough African languages data set. They're considered low resource languages. So this report that is talking is not considering the low resource languages, saying they don't have enough data to train the models, so there's not enough talent that they are seeing from that perspective. But there is so much data for language models, so much translation of language models to various different countries that is happening in Africa. So that's how we wanted to see, think about the global south when we think about the global index. But I'll let Leparia tell you the rest of the story before we get there.
So these are the global AI index factors showing us key metrics about how we measure AI output around the world. And in the first section, we see talent, which is one factor. And in the top image, that specifically is the factor of contributions to all open source AI repositories on GitHub. And and then below that is the number of AI professionals. So what we see here is you can see the largest bubbles are India and the US. And so those countries are in the lead in terms of talent, which means there's a lot of skilled AI professionals in the US and India, especially compared to other countries. And then the next section is research, which is the number of filed, and I specifically put in the number of filed AI patents. And in this case, you see that US, China, and the UK are in the lead, but specifically US and China, you can see are pretty far ahead. And then in terms of development, I put in number of submissions to AI conferences. So in this case, you can see the US, the largest bubble is China, and then you see the US and other East Asian countries are represented, such as Japan and South Korea. Okay. So now, next slide, sorry. Thank you. Okay. So with advances in AI, also, by the way, any questions so far?
And if you're watching, you have a question, you
anything
can
to
put it
add?
on LinkedIn. This is amazing. And you've collected this from so many different sources, because usually people get one report and then you don't see all the different dimensions of this. So it's wonderful. And I did not know Singapore. I would have never known Singapore was at the top of how many people are skilled in AI. It's almost the whole country, looks like, right? I'm very fascinated by that. Thank you.
So now let's look at the AI index rankings, which is since we have so many advances in AI, governmental action is needed to ensure that the AI technologies are benefiting societies and not deepening inequalities. So this chart on the right shows the 2022 index rankings of one.
Okay, I'm going to move forward because this presentation is available to you at Weekly Wednesday. I'm interested in showing you the applications in Global South. We'll talk more with
and translation tools, ways that we can improve these applications. Okay, and I think also like if any responses come in the chat, I can read it.
Yeah, I can keep tab of what is coming in the chat, and I think people will talk more with Susanna.
Okay.
After this on this topic, yeah.
Okay, so correct my pronunciation, but Lasan, an AI startup, has been developing translation tools for Ethiopian languages, and has been outcompeting or having better performance than other large language models like Google Translate, for instance. And this AI startup and other AI startups in the Global South have been adding to the richness and the accuracy of translation and of the languages in the region. So specifically it here gives two examples, Amharic and I can't Tigrinya. Sorry for the pronunciation, by the way. And so with Google Translate and other large language models, there are multiple signs of faulty accuracy and lack of inclusion for the global South's languages. So these type of AI innovations are taking steps towards creating a more inclusive and global language AI.
So one thing that I noticed that's very interesting in the work of of Lisan is in Google Translate they might not have the data for all languages, right? Because the way Google Translate and all the AI language AI out there works is based on a set of languages, 7 or 8 languages, and then they do what is called as transfer learning to other languages. So what they have done here, what Lisan has done is they've actually created 2 benchmark data set for languages from the Horn of Africa. And so I hope that is available in GitHub and open source, and others can build on it. Maybe the Google team can go and improve Google Translate also with that. Okay, so you get an idea. This is from Weekly Word by Parya Sarin, and then Susanna comes in and she was announcing the Global South in AI call for abstract, which I'm going to share with you in a minute. But Parya has put together the state of AI across nations and generative AI, and brought amazing examples. There's another one about like the anchor in India that I was showing you from for Odia language, like that she has one from Indonesia, which is also like avatars created by AI. So it's very fascinating for me to see what people are doing. In if it is left out from Google Translate and it is a low resource language, and the zero shot learning is not translating well, here somebody from Ethiopia who knows the language says, okay, I'm going to build a better model, here's the data set for it. So we live in very interesting times where there's a lot of public data sets, but the knowledge of the people who are collecting this, who know the language, is very important. It's not just about hiring them, because talent is now everywhere, as you saw. But we were curious in Global South in AI. We were curious about what is it that people want to do. It is, it's interesting to sit in Silicon Valley and say they could use it for this application, they could use it for that application, but there might be something else. So last year, and I'm going to share the Global South in AI website with you, and that is one that Parya walked us through also. Let me find that. globalsouthinai.org. Yes, I know I'm not sharing yet. So where are we? Here. So Global South in AI last year, I'm going to go to the archive before we come to this year's call, is we said we want to see what is happening in Global South for languages that are low resource languages. This is us with our own presentation. But we said, come up with ideas and we'll help you learn how to build a research poster. So there is Bella Bot for English translation for Hinglish, a person who knows Hindi but uses English Latin script to chat, and there are millions of people in India for that. In fact, I think it's 350 is the number, 350 million. And so we found that there was this, misinformation, mistranslation news feed. There is a transformer-based model about misinformation in Kenyan elections. There's a lot more like that. And I have spoken before about this. Bari language does not have any data set because none of the big tech companies included Bari in their zero shot language translation or in their existing base models that they built, and I don't know why. So if you're working for one of these companies who works on machine translation, I would like to know why Bari language got left out from South Sudan. And I'm finding amazing applications of helping refugee women in refugee camps around Sudan, and they speak only Bari. So I think that having a machine translation for that language will be much more useful than any of the most other languages that we are using for chatting, for fun and frolic. So there are these are the applications that we saw. This is just a machine translation data set that was created by a team who made it to one of our authors at New Rips last year. But what kind of applications that they are thinking about comes from where they are what they think is more important. And it doesn't have to be just, very serious use cases. We saw one with a sign language for an Indian dance form called Bharatanatyam, where they said, where can we take the sign language and convert into text using AI. And this was last year in December when we went to New Rips. And then in November is when ChatGPT burst on the scene and generative AI became a big deal, right? So I wanted to show that. And so what we have come up with this year is a new call about from Global South in AI. So Susanna Raj, Pariya Sarin, and I are the global chairs. And we said, we don't want people who just know to build AI models or AI data sets and who know the world of research to just tell us stuff, right, about Global South. We want to know what kind of applications are out there. So we looked at generative AI, and this came from Susanna Raj. And in fact, if you watch through the weekly Wednesday where Pariya was talking, Susanna will tell you her reasoning, her thinking, and her motivation of what she wants and how she's thinking about this. But my understanding and our call that's officially gone out to the world is, if you are in any of the Global South countries or languages, and it could be a language, it could be an indigenous language in any of the other Western countries too, that's okay. If you are looking at generative AI and you say, this is amazing use case, a good use case, tell us about it. If you're thinking, hey, this is a useful use case, like I was telling you about the Sudan, having South Sudan having Bari language, but there is no language model for it. If it exists, it could help the refugee women who are in the camps. That's an amazing use case, but we don't have it. So if you can think of a use case like the examples I was showing below, or from last year's archive for generative AI, and you say the chatbot should be doing this, the generative image should be doing this, the music generation should be doing that. So, and to solve this local problem for us, talk to us, tell us. That could be a submission you can make. If it is a good use case, if it is a local use case that is missing, but you think that should be done, just tell us. I'm not asking you to build the model, I'm not asking you to build the data set. You could go to whatever extent you want, because we want to help make those things happen. But at this point, we are just thinking, what are these use cases that's very specific to Global South that the Global North is not thinking about? And here we are sitting in Silicon Valley. We want to facilitate that connection to bring value to the world with generative AI. And the third category is being misused. Is there a bias? Is there some kind of misuse of the AI with generative AI? That's being discussed again in my world, but what is happening in your world? So talk to me. So we want to hear it in the form of a submission. It's 250 words. What is the submission? What is the application that is happening? What is the application that's hurting? What is the application that's missing that is going to potentially be useful? And why are you saying that is a big deal? Give us some context and tell us in 250 words. That's all we're asking. And you get a month. And you can join the Slack. I believe the Slack group for Global South in AI is right here at globalsouthinai.org. If you want to come jump in, join us, find collaborators. The video I was showing you from Pariya's presentation is right here. If you want to watch it, all you have to go to is globalsouthinai.org and talk to us. And it's amazing. I mean, I'm a big believer. Everybody knows that I'm a big on connecting people and networking, because you make me smart. I might be thinking something from my world. You'll come and ask me a question. Together, we can do something. And so I hope you'll come in and do that. And if you just are ready to make a submission, you can just click and you can make a submission too. And the beauty of this time is you give us a 250 word submission on a rolling basis. We are going to accept, because this is not going to be a blind peer reviewed submissions of posters like last time. So once this abstracts are accepted, and we'll come and ask questions, and if it seems viable, what we're going to do is we're going to help you build a poster. If you want to build an AI poster and come to New Reps, awesome, we'll love to take you. You can come and present in person or virtually. Or you say, no, you know what, I'm talking about this language, this doesn't have enough data, but I have sound clippings and I'm going to show that. Show us an audio, show us a demo. Or you want to express that as art. as a painting or some kind of visual art, do it. That's okay too. We want you to tell us, talk to us, write to us, show us audio, show us an art, and express your view of where generative AI is being used, should be used, should not be used in any of these. And when you do the submission, you have to pick one of these three categories, and then you can decide what format you're going to do this. That's okay, and you have time to do that. So right now we're just looking for the submissions. Come talk to us, and you'll never know. I find the amazing things that happen when people start collaborating. Every time I've got a grant and I've joined a community, I just like, it just blows my mind, and it makes me so much smarter. Last year, in the beginning of last year, I was in the first cohort of Notre Dame's IBM AI Ethics Lab, and got a grant, worked with Dr. Charles Ickham, and we did some fun stuff, and I'm still friends with everybody from that community. So that's fantastic stuff. So that is what I'm asking about. So I showed you this. Yeah, somebody's asking, they want to see a little bit of Pariya's presentation. So I'm going to show you what she was sharing next. Give me a minute. Thank you for this. And this is the recent July 2023 news. Thank you.
Yeah. So, okay, the next, so we can show the video.
Marked the beginning of a historic moment not only in Odisha, but for all the regional television broadcast mediums across the country. Please tune in for our upcoming segments where I will be hosting latest news updates coming in from Odisha, India and around the world. I hope you will accept me with the same love and enthusiasm. Namaste. Thank you.
Okay, so this is a great video. It's an amazing example of an AI application that is enriching language models in the global south. And this type of example of having this news, somebody giving the news, and this is not just happening in India. So there are many AI news bots that are all over Asia, and they're helping to cater to the diverse cultural and linguistic richness of the region. So in Indonesia, for example, digital avatars such as Nadira and Sasya have a translation system capable of translating languages for over 300 distinct ethnic groups there. So this is a great example of something that's happening in the state of India.
Okay, so I actually wanted to show you that because one of the things we are looking to do as a follow-up, of course, if you have an idea that you're working and you want to make a submission, you want to come talk to us at Global South in AI at the Slack group, it's awesome. But all these people we are hearing, this Lesan startup who's doing the conversion to Ethiopian languages, and the Indonesian anchors, and I did not even internalize the first time I heard it. It is translating not just to one language. It's very easy for a country that you don't know and you say one language. And in India, there are like hundreds of languages, actually hundreds of languages. And in other countries, there are like multiple dialects of the languages. So whatever it is, if you say something and I can't understand, or if I say something you can understand, it's a loss to both of us. And so this is translating across multiple dialects. And so one call I have for all of you watching here is, my motivation to show this and spend so much time on this is I want to reach people beyond my network, to hear from people who are working on such projects, who are looking at such projects, who are thinking of ideas but they don't know where to get started with. And I would love to hear from you. And for the ones we mentioned, we saw that from news. We don't know these teams personally. So if you are working on the startup that is doing this conversion on this AI anchor in India or Indonesia, or the lesson language for Ethiopia, we want to hear from you. We would love for you to come and present your ideas or your models and your applications at Weekly Wed. So talk to us, and if this is not yours, if it is not you, but you know somebody, please share it or tag a friend so that this gets to that place. Because everybody, I think, has LinkedIn mostly, especially if they are working in AI in any form. So I hope I will see you guys. That's my aspiration, to kind of share this. That's where I was going with this. And I always like to show I mean, I try to congratulate people who inspire me, and I start my weekly weds with that. I start Sudha Life definitely with that. So I want to switch to that segment. So the first person I wanted to show, this is like a show and tell in a library. This is called Smart Girl Books by Marita Cheng. And if you look up Marita Cheng, she has a company which teaches girls to build robots. She's a robotist, and she has actually created this to tell the stories of inspiring women who have conquered new frontiers and changed the world with their ideas. This is, I'm reading what she's saying, that is her inspiration. So she's essentially a technology entrepreneur, and this is her book. And her robotics company is called Aubot, AUBOT, and she was named as the 2020 Young Australian of the Year. It is like getting knighted or something in Australia, like the Young Australian of the Year. Okay, so I definitely got this book as soon as I saw it, and it's a comic book, and this is her first book, and she's a robotist, and it's amazing stuff. I love it. So congratulations, Marita. And then my favorite person, I'm going to show you who that is in a minute. Why is this blue green thing showing up in the tag? Got rid of it. Okay. Ruth Naduta. Do you guys remember Ruth Naduta? She was here at Business School of AI in our weekly VED on IoT Day 2 years back. And before generative AI was a big buzz, Ruth was here and did a session on BERT and taught us BERT. BERT was a precursor to, to GPT, and then the several GPTs that has taken off into generative AI. So she's come back. She's been busy. She's moved to Ghana, and she is pursuing entrepreneurship at MEST Africa. And other than just her studies, what she's doing, she's tracked every possible event in Accra. And so she's like saying, like platforms like Zindi, Eloquent Data, Women Tech Makers Accra, she's connected with every one of them, and she's transformed herself. And look at her, and she works out every week, and tries to help others. So congratulations, Ruth, and I'm amazed to see where you're going to go next with all this. Okay, so the other thing that Ruth did is, other than introduce herself, she said, I'm going to introduce somebody else. And that is something women typically do. As soon as they feel good about themselves and they feel like they're getting somewhere, they want to support other people. That's a thing. Hold on. So I saw Ruth 2 days back, and what did she do? She said, here's the first Women Crush Wednesday, and she looks like she's going to do a series. And she's celebrating Mercy Resiato. And she's the Marcy girl in tech. Looks like she's like a cool technologist, coder. She's taken up software engineering course from AIX Africa. And here she is, Mercy Resiato. So she's saying, if you're ever in need of a coding wizard, and here she is, and congratulations. And it's so refreshing to see more call outs. I do that all the time, but I'm very amazed when other people do that. Okay, so this is my favorite person, Renee Cummings. And interesting enough, she's doing a call out too. So Renee Cummings is an AI ethicist. She has come and taught a course at Business School of AI on AI ethics and when inclusive AI. We did a series on that last year. She was here, and she's a data science professor of practice at University of Virginia, UVA School of Data Science. And so she has a bunch of PhD data justice scholars, and she's calling them out: Sanai Brown of Spelman College and Brandon Lozano of University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. And basically, Sanai and Brandon worked with Renee's team over the summer as part of the UVA's Data Justice Academic Lead with her PhD, Claudia Schlotz. And so what they, and then she's also giving credit to Claire Sester and Sarah Adams. Looks like an awesome teamwork here. And what they've done is Renee has a brainchild called the Digital Force Index. It's a public interest technology tool that she has conceptualized to create more accountability and transparency in how algorithms are deployed in policing and public safety. Renee is very big on surveillance and AI. And so this is about how do you map surveillance tech and create a framework and get to this ethically. So congratulations, guy. This is Digital Force Index. I definitely want to check out the Digital Force Index, or DFI as they call it. And definitely I would follow these amazing people and Renee Cummings. And yeah, congratulations for continuing to keep up your amazing work. And then I also have somebody I want to congratulate. Why is this green thing coming every time? Is there a way to avoid it instead of disappearing? Okay, so there is Amanda Rodriguez, and she has started a new position as product designer at Adidas. So again, she's thanking people who helped her on the journey. So congratulations, Amanda. So, and we see a lot of this, but usually I find this very inspiring on any average day when I see one of these, especially if it's somebody I've seen who's gone through a journey. I just love it, what they've done. So it's amazing. Where do you think South Korea ranks in this whole AI index, of intensity that Parya was talking about? And I started out this session this morning about what percentage of people of the entire population are AI ready, or they're talented and they have capacity. Where do you think South Korea ranks? We spoke about the top ones being Singapore, Israel, and Switzerland. India is the number 2 in terms of the total number of talent available, but as a percentage of the country, where do you think Switzerland ranks? So US is in the 5th because of the size, and South Korea is number 6, and then follows Canada. This is percentage of people. And there must be programs. I remember in India, other than engineers learning computer science, now the commerce graduates and everybody else who are learning other topics, they have the opportunity to learn computer applications. They are learning computers in different forms, and they're bringing AI into everything. So this is AI application from commerce grads, and they're eligible and ready to go do some fun stuff. And that's kind of where the world should be going. We should have people from sociology, psychology, commerce, and legal, and all kinds of background coming in to build AI, because they're going to bring the different perspective. They're going to define AI very, very differently. Okay, so I've congratulated the people I wanted to. I showed you that. Let me see. I saw this one interesting thing that, when we're thinking about generative AI, one of the other things that, we don't talk about much is there's a cost to build these models, right? It's expensive to build these models. So this is from Stanford's HAI, the Human Centered AI Lab. And basically they're actually quoting I'm showing from Stanford, but this is actually, they're quoting the AI Index 2022, the one we saw earlier, that Parya was showing from Oxford. So they were showing, each of these models, and large models or multimodal models is listing all the different models. And then what is the number of, the cost of training each of these models in millions of US dollars. This is an interesting stat I have not seen. I know it takes a lot of CPU power and everything, but in my book, you would see how many billion parameters are there in each of these models. So there's more and more number of billions of parameters in each of these models. That means it's going to be more expensive, that much time, such much CPU power to just run these models. But this is where I'm seeing a dollar number associated with it, which means it is expensive. That also means that everybody can build this, so we're going to build on one of these. So we should not be competing to create more and more new models, but try to make these models inclusive, or connect to these models in such a way that they can support low resource languages. So that's my take on this. Yes, somebody was asking about my book. How can I mention my book and not talk about it? So it's bit.ly/generative AI book. That's what this is. It's available, yes, only as a Kindle book. It's not available as a print book. So yeah, I do explain the models in there. I'm happy to explain models more if that's interesting for people, because that's one of my pet projects, to always keep tracking where the what are the different models out there and what we can do. So I have an interesting set of people who got a fellowship that are doing amazing thing that I want to share before I close out. But since I was talking so much about Africa, there is a mover and shaker in Africa in the language world that is doing a talk that I'm going to attend, and I hope you can too. So I was talking about Lanfrica. So if you go to Lanfrica, they have a series of talks. So this is one of them, and you can join it on Zoom. And this is Professor Bukosi Mariwate, and he's talking about dealing with data access and data use, and he's very active in, you know, a leader in the whole NLP in Africa. And I've seen him speak in a couple other places, but he works, I believe, in University of Pretoria. So and he's also the founder of this deep learning Indaba. You must have seen, I think Ruth Nedutta was talking about this earlier. So he's doing a lot of, you know, grassroots leadership to, you know, empower and support African researchers. So one of my observations is I see a lot of AI engineers come out of India with coding and being able to build models and in the data science side of things. And I'm seeing a lot of researchers coming out of Africa who are able to build data set and take and build models from there, but they are thinking, they are doing pure research. So you see a lot of people who become PhDs from there. And I've not seen applications yet. And I'm from a US world, I'm seeing a lot of applications come in, but I want to see applications in every world, because there are problems, there are local problems that needs to be solved, and we have resources everywhere with talent everywhere. So I hope with Global South in AI, we can collaborate, or you can refer me to these amazing people. I can bring them to Weekly Ved, and we can have a fun chat and we can learn something together. So that's my hope. Okay. So the last thing, let me show you Berkman Klein Center. It is, I'm a big fan of Berkman Klein Center in Howard, and they're hiring a managing director. And the BKC is for, it's called Berkman Klein Center for Internet and Society at Harvard University. So they're looking for a managing director who's going to serve as deputy to the executive director and the primary contact for their entire diverse community. So it's an operational role, leadership role, partnering with the executive director and faculty. It's an amazing role. I would do that if I would want to be part of this if I was in Boston, but this is amazing. So if you know anybody who's a fit, I would recommend sharing this, and I will put this in the newsletter too. So before I close out, the big one that I'm trying to focus my time on today is amazing set of people that you should be following. So congratulations to the Berkman Klein Fellows of 2023. So Laura Bridges, congratulations, Lauren Bridges. She researches social and environmental impacts of digital infrastructure. Remember, we talked about the training models and of generative AI and how expensive they are. We spoke about surveillance and how Renee Cummings has come with a framework of thinking about this. So Lauren Bridges publishes on surveillance infrastructures, on digital labor and digital failure, as she calls it. I'm curious to go see some of her work. And no surprise that Bridges will be an assistant professor of media studies at University of Virginia. That's where Renee Cummings is. And Hui Chen is a multidisciplinary researcher. Congratulations, Hui. She has a passion for creative practices and is pursuing intellectual synergies. So I'm curious to see what Hui is going to do at the Berkman Center. Diana Freed, congratulations, Diana, and she is joined BKC and at the Center for Research and Computation on Society at Howard John A. Paulson School of Engineering and Applied Sciences. And she looks at the intersection of technology and society. So I'm curious to follow and see what she's looking at on privacy and security and human computer interaction. Given my AIX framework, that's something that I'm interested in. Mehtab Khan, congratulations, and she focuses on intellectual property and specifically copyright and trademark law, and especially in this world of generative AI, that's a big one. And I'm curious, when we start getting submissions and people coming and talking to us at Global South in AI, what are we going to see that is different from what we are hearing about generative AI, which is a misuse. And so for those of you who missed this, I believe last week, in the previous Sudha Live, I was actually showing you the AI copyright uh, discussion that happened at US Congress, and Adobe Trust Officer was there. So if that is interesting, that you can go to the archive on my YouTube, you'll be able to see that. And she's looking at, Mehtab Khan is looking at mechanisms for governing data and deploy AI technology to ensure diversity and representation in the process. So it's not just copyright and ownership. So that's very, very interesting. Rebecca Larson, congratulations. She comes from University of Cambridge, and Rebecca is a fellow and focusing on exploring the Utah media environment, because I've not seen anyone else do this, but she's interested in the intersection of rurality, religion, and radio. It's mind blowing. When I read this, I read it again. She's looking at the intersection of rurality, religion, and radio. I know one thing that I keep talking about is, in building AI, we need diverse set of voices and people and perspective. And people generally think, okay, we need people from various race, or we need people of different economic background, different hobbies and different hairstyles. I always talk about my hairstyle and how the AI might not recognize me, sometimes calls me a dog. So if it is a bad AI, it doesn't do good facial recognition, that's the one. But here is intersectionality of rurality, religion, and radio. Congratulations, Rebecca. I cannot wait to see your research. Dasu Press. Dasu Press is again, a postdoctoral fellow in the embedded ethics program, and it says ethics with a CS. So I'm curious to see what she's talking about. And like our friend Susanna Raj from Global South in AI, she wants to draw on methods from social sciences, philosophy, and law to study the impacts of algorithmic decision-making systems and other evidence-based reforms in the US criminal justice system. Patrick K. Lynn, who is, has been a speaker at Weekly Ved in my Stanford class, has worked on similar topics. So I'm curious to see where this would go. But the thing about Dasha Prus is she was also a co-organizer to ban facial recognition and predictive policing in the city of Pittsburgh. One thing that I tell my students, especially when I teach at Barcelona Technology School, is in US, facial recognition has been officially banned because it is not inclusive and it hurts people. And and Algorithmic Justice League was Joy Buolamwini was instrumental in going in front of Congress to get this banned when city of Dallas was pushing a pilot of facial recognition. And all the top facial recognition companies don't have the right diverse data set by which they're training. The models are not performing well. So that's happening. Other than that, many cities across the US individually have banned them because they're hurting their people. And especially if that is using for predictive policing. You see that being used in airports and the like nowadays. But when the cities are using for facial recognition, many of the cities have banned it. You keep hearing that story from San Francisco again and again. So Dasha Press has focused on predictive policing and facial recognition in city of Pittsburgh, and said this needs to stop, and was instrumental in getting a facial recognition ban. It doesn't mean that facial recognition is going to go away forever, but it needs to just become more inclusive. And all the technologies looking out there for a huge problem to solve. This is a problem to solve. If you build a technology and it doesn't work, if it is an AI model and it doesn't perform well, what is the point of releasing it into the world? And what is the point of abandoning on improving it? Because the thing about AI is it learns and learns and learns, and it's a learning AI, so you can improve it. And this is a challenge. Somebody out there who is focused on computer vision might want to take it up. So And Dasa Prus is the person to follow up if you want to, improve this and move it forward. Angela Vu is an associate professor of media, culture, and communication at NYU. And she is from the Socialist Press to Platform Atmospherics, which examines how public culture takes shape and system thinking informs its conceptions and governments. She works at the intersection of media and communication, science and technology studies, and China studies, and her research combines humanities and social centers. Again, Susanna is going to make friends with these people because there are more people who are thinking about humanities and social sciences and bringing it into technology and AI. And our past work is examination of Chinese media and politics beyond the oppression resistant binary, and analysis of macro patterns of media use in relationship technological environment. So Angela, congratulations. I'm excited to see your work. Maitreya Shah is a blind lawyer and researcher, and his work lies in the intersections of ethics and governance of emerging technology and disability rights, rightfully so. And he will be looking at AI fairness frameworks from the standpoint of disability, justice, and inclusion. And so, congratulations, Maitreya Shai. Fantastic. I'm excited to see your work here. Madhvi Sundar is a Frank Sherry Professor of Intellectual Property Law at Georgetown University, and she's a scholar of intellectual property law on women's human rights and international development. So she's going to take this fellowship and write a book on cultural appropriation and intellectual property. Again, cultural appropriation is something that very casually happens in language models and is not talked about. So I hope, Madhvi Sundar will be doing something about it, and I'm happy to read her book. Joanna Wild is a German open source researcher and founder of the investigative tech team of Bellingcat in Amsterdam. And she'll study how open source research tools can be collaboratively built. And I have shown in the past at Weekly Wed, after talking to the CTO of the city of Amsterdam, about how they were using computer vision and they were creating autonomous, they were putting cameras instead of creating autonomous delivery systems. They were using garbage trucks with cameras to go look around the city to see where garbage needs to be picked up. And there were various different interesting use cases, but everything was in open source. So I'm very curious to see what Joanna Wild is going to come with. And she will also join the community as the Neiman Berkman Fellow in Journalism Innovation. And then Angie Japing Zhang is the founder of Matters Lab in Hong Kong and Taiwan. It's such a diverse group, and they're all in Boston here at Berkman Klein Center. So it's amazing. I would love to do a session with them and do some collaboration. So if you're watching this, or if you're going to be the next managing director, talk to me. I would love to collaborate with you. And so Annie Japang Zhang will work on building decentralized support networks for independent journalists who face censorship and political repression. That's amazing, amazing, amazing. She's also a journalism fellow. And then I'm a big fan of Dr. Ruman Chowdhury, and she's a Knight Responsible AI fellow there. Jacinda Adren and Sue Hendrickson are also in this community, and they'll continue their amazing, amazing work. So congratulations to the Berkman Klein Center. It's buzzing with energy with all these amazing people. So congratulations. I'm so happy for you. So I hope I will see some of you at Lanfrica online for Professor Vukosi Mariwate's session on the 31st. Or maybe you'll join me at Weekly Wed, because with the Weekly Wed at Business School of AI, our topic is on generative AI, various aspects of it. So if you're interested in speaking, or if you know somebody working on generative AI, specifically focus on language models, I would love to have you come in. And Sneha Jadhav is out for a couple of weeks, so I'm going to be back on the hosting seat, so you'll see a little bit more of me. So with that, I'm going to wrap up. And for those of you who missed this, come back, post a question. I'm happy to answer your questions, or come to the if you join my YouTube, you'll be able to get all these streams. Otherwise, I will see you on Wednesday at Weekly Wed, and look forward to answering questions at the Global South in AI Slack group. If you're thinking about, generative AI in global South countries or in indigenous languages, and if you have a room, if you have option to collaborate to kind of get this to the next level to reach more countries and people and groups, I would love to collaborate with you. So with that, I'm going to wrap up. Thanks everybody. Stay safe and have a fantastic weekend. I will see you soon. I will see you next week. I'm going to stop the live stream now. Bye bye.